I'm Matthew Woods, host of Leading Out of the Woods, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Coming up on episode 255 of the House of EdTech podcast, I'm talking about troubleshooting common podcasting challenges, because that's chapter 8 of I Like to Podcast, and you will too. Strike up the band. Welcome to the House of EdTech. My name is Chris Nessie. The House of EdTech launched in 2014, giving me the opportunity to speak with teachers, leaders, and creators so you can more effectively integrate technology, strengthen your pedagogy, and have more confidence in your classroom and school so you can make an impact. Get involved with the podcast by visiting my website, chrisnessie.com. Using technology isn't difficult, and this is where it begins. This is the House of EdTech. Welcome back if you are a returning listener, and welcome if this is your first time listening. So glad you're making House of EdTech a part of your anytime, anywhere professional development. I'm very excited to bring you today's episode. This is going to be chapter 8 of my self-published book, I Like to Podcast, and you will too, A House of EdTech Guide to Podcasting. I self-published this book back in August of 2023, and in addition to going through the next chapter, I will also, intermittently throughout the reading of the text, I will provide additional commentary on the topic of podcasting. Now, if you would like to pick up a copy of the book for yourself, that would be great. Or if you want to buy it for somebody else, that's awesome too. Just go to chrisnessie.com/I Like to Podcast. The book is available physically as well as for your Kindle. If you don't want to pick up a copy of the book, but you are getting value and you want to show your appreciation, you can visit chrisnessie.com/support. Additionally, I want to invite you to join the Discord community for the House of EdTech, where we can discuss the book, technology, podcasting, education, or if you just want to vent a little bit, feel free. Come on into chrisnessie.com/Discord. And before we get into it, 2 little announcements here. Number 1, the 2024 House of EdTech Smackdown is coming soon. That's going to be episode number 257. So we are but 2 episodes away. That's going to come your way on December 22nd, 2024. Now, if you are that returning listener, you know what it's all about, so just allow me to explain it to a new listener. It's my last episode of the calendar year, and this will be the 11th installment of the EdTech Smackdown. You can go and check out chrisnessie.com/all-time smackdown. Thank you to Derek Larson for maintaining that Google Sheet from year to year, all the people, their social handles, and what they have contributed to the Smackdown each year. Now, if you see something on there that you still use and it was super relevant, feel free. We can do repeats. There's a lot of tech tools out there, but there's also a lot of things that people love that are tried and true. So feel free to share something that you enjoyed. A tech tool, a tip, a website, an app, a hack, you name it. And if it's EdTech and it's awesome in 2024, I want you to share it with the entire House of EdTech community. You can get your submission to me by December 20th, 2024. And you can send me an email and attach audio. You can send an email and you can write the whole thing out. But if you do that, you leave it up to me to do an impression of you. And if I don't know what you sound like, well, you're taking your chances. So the best thing you could do is when you go to my website, you can click leave a voicemail and you can do that. So you can send me a voicemail. Be sure to let me know who you are, where you're from, how people can connect with you, and then go into what you want to share for the Smackdown. I've gotten a handful of submissions already, and I want a lot more. Every year I want it to be bigger and better. And in my mind, that is more people submitting something to the Smackdown. So I invite you to do that. Again, get your submissions to me by December 20th, 2024. And my last announcement before I get into chapter 8, I'm on Blue Sky. Well, let me rewind that. I've been on Blue Sky, but I'm in the midst of a 30-day all-in challenge on Blue Sky. I deleted Twitter from my browser as a pinned tab here on the House of EdTech computer. I deleted the app from my phone. So I am all in on Blue Sky, and you can connect with me there. My username is mrnessie.bsky.app, but if you just go to chrisnessie.com/blue sky, you will get to my profile. And if you're on Blue Sky and you're listening, we should be connected. And I'll be honest, I am very excited for the prospects of what Blue Sky has to offer. And if you missed the days of being a connected educator and using Twitter to be connected, then you need to get yourself over onto Blue Sky. And I'm so enthused by this that I'm actually announcing to you here as I'm recording and releasing this in advance of December 2nd, 2024, I will be moderating the Edu Sky Chat on December 2nd, 2024. And that's hashtag Edu Sky Chat, EDU Sky Chat. So shout out to Kate, Carly, and Alice who are putting that together. And my topic is going to be probably related to podcasting and content creation for teachers and for students. So come and hang out with us on hashtag EduSkyChat on December 2nd. That's at 9. Oh, hold on. I'm looking at this real quick with the, because I just got my notification today that when the time is, and I know it's like a Pacific Coast thing, and it's later on the East Coast. So as I'm looking at this, it is going to be on Monday, December 2nd at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central, 6 Pacific. It's a half-hour chat, and it is, I think, 3 questions. There you go. I'm looking at their one-pager. So there we go. Come and join us on Edu Sky Chat. Don't be a lurker. If you've not been on Twitter or that was never your thing, come on to Blue Sky. I'm telling you. Get on Blue Sky and connect with me. All right. Enough about that. I'll see you on Blue Sky. Now, I'd like to present I Like to Podcast, and you will too, a House of EdTech Guide to Podcasting, Chapter number 8, Troubleshooting Common Podcasting Challenges. Chapter 8, Troubleshooting Common Podcasting Challenges. We know that podcasting has become a popular medium for sharing ideas, stories, and information with a wide audience. However, even in the best planning and preparation scenarios, podcasting can come with its own set of challenges. In this chapter, I'll explore some of the most common problems that podcasters face and provide some solutions for troubleshooting them. Whether you are just starting out with podcasting or are an experienced pro, this chapter will provide valuable insights and tips for overcoming common obstacles and ensuring a successful recording. Problem number 1, poor audio quality. This can be caused by a variety of factors, such as background noise, poor microphone technique, or insufficient recording equipment. Here's a solution. Use a high-quality microphone and high-quality recording equipment. Also, consider your microphone technique, and these can help you minimize the background noise during your recording. If you move way back from the microphone versus being right on top of the microphone, there's going to be a difference in how you sound. Problem number 2, audio distortion or feedback. This can occur when the audio signal is too loud or when there is a problem with the recording equipment. The solution? Adjust the volume levels during your recording. Check your recording levels before you press record, and this will help to alleviate any equipment issues. Problem 3, problems with your recording equipment. This can include malfunctioning microphones, faulty cables or connections, or issues with software or recording devices. The solution? One of the solutions with recording equipment is to regularly maintain and check the equipment for any issues. So again, before you sit down to record something, check all of your equipment. Do a few minutes or a couple of seconds of a test recording to make sure everything is connected right and everything is sounding good. And if you need to troubleshoot a problem, break it down into individual parts and pieces. Check the microphone, replace a cable, check your knobs. That's my advice there. Problem number 4, difficulties with editing and post-production. This can include challenges with editing audio files, adding music or sound effects, and preparing episodes for publishing. Some solutions: use specialized software and tools for editing audio. Yes, you could edit audio in a video program, but why not use a tool that was built specifically for editing audio? As always, I recommend Audacity as a great tool for editing audio. Seek guidance from more experienced podcasters or professionals. You're welcome to reach out to me, or you can also check YouTube. There are great tutorials on editing audio to get your voice and your content sounding great. Problem number 5, issues with uploading and publishing episodes. Sometimes you go to publish an episode and it doesn't do exactly what you want it to do. Now, some issues are your fault, and some issues might be going on with your podcast media host. One solution to issues with uploading and publishing episodes is to carefully follow the guidelines and the instructions provided by podcast hosting platforms. And to troubleshoot any technical problems, make sure you reach out to the customer support people or use their online resources. One of the biggest issues that you might face is when you produce your podcast episode, you produce something that's not an MP3 file. Maybe you put out a WAV file, or you're using Audacity for the first time and you just publish or save that project file. That's not the format that people listen to, so make sure you are producing an MP3 file. Problem number 6, issues with uploading and publishing episodes. Well, this is why I'm never a fan of writing a book, and why for years I talked about not wanting to write a book. Here's some user-author error on my part. Problem 5 and problem 6 in the book are the exact same thing, and I, the self-publisher, did not catch it when creating the book. Let's go to problem 7, which is actually problem number 6. Difficulties with formatting and sharing episodes. This can include problems with ensuring that episodes are properly formatted for different listening platforms, as well as challenges with promoting and sharing episodes on social media and other online channels. Some solutions? Well, one solution to difficulties with formatting and sharing is to carefully research and follow the guidelines provided by different listening platforms. Make sure you are creating the right type of media file. Make sure you are using your podcast media host to the fullest. If there's a place for a description, obviously your title, your episode number, make sure you are using and formatting text in an appropriate way. I don't recommend using things like emojis in your podcast text. RSS feeds don't like emojis, so I don't recommend it. Also, consider how you're using social media and other online channels to promote and share episodes. My big thing here at the end of 2024 is using social media as it's intended to be used, and that's to connect with other human beings and not just be a promotion machine. Engage with people. Yes, share your content, but don't just make that the only thing you are putting out on social media and on all the platforms is listen to me, listen to me. You've got to add other value. You've got to engage with people. People are the people who listen to your content. Having lots of likes and shares on your tweets or Instagram posts or your TikTok content, that might not be translating into listeners. Speaking of listeners, dealing with negative feedback and haters. As a podcaster, it is inevitable that you will receive some negative feedback and criticism from listeners. While it can be difficult to hear negative comments about your work, it is important to remember that not everyone will agree with you or like your content. It is also important to distinguish between constructive criticism, which can help you improve and grow as a podcaster, and destructive or malicious comments, which are often intended to hurt or offend you. One way to deal with negative feedback and haters is to try to remain calm and professional. If you're an educator, this is almost second nature. Don't let your emotions get the better of you, and avoid getting into a heated argument or engaging with trolls. Let me interrupt myself. I've said for years, don't feed the trolls. Back to the book. Instead, take a step back and try to see the situation from the other person's perspective. Consider whether there is any truth to their comments and whether there are any changes or improvements that you can make to your content. Another way to deal with negative feedback and haters is to engage with your audience and listen to their concerns and suggestions. Respond to their comments and questions in a polite and respectful manner, and show that you are open to feedback and that you are willing to improve. This can help to build trust and credibility with your listeners, and can also provide valuable insights and ideas for future episodes. Finally, remember that not everyone will like your podcast, and that's okay. I'll be honest, let me interrupt myself again here. It took me a long time to really take ownership of that. I know really all along I've said that, I'm not the only EdTech podcast out there. And while that is true, and there are plenty of voices to listen to, and I would love it if everybody who is a teacher and an educator listened to me, that would be awesome. But I understand I am not for everybody. But some people resonate with how I view education and technology, and that's why you listen to me and care about what I think and what I have to say and the guests that I put on. But I understand very well that I am not for everybody. Back to the book. Focus on creating content that resonates with your target audience, and don't be discouraged by the occasional negative comment or criticism. With time, you will develop a loyal and engaged audience who appreciate and support your work. You'll also develop your very thick skin. And as a content creator, you kind of need to do that. And remember, to kind of go on the opposite of this, you're not as bad as your most negative feedback, but you're also not as great as the people who sing your praises. So you kind of got to filter out both and just kind of be true to yourself as a content creator. Back to the book. Here are some tips for dealing with negative feedback. 1. Remain calm and professional. It can be difficult to hear negative comments about your work, but it is important to stay calm and avoid getting into a heated argument or engaging with trolls. 2. Consider the other person's perspective. Try to see the situation from the other person's point of view and consider whether there is any truth to their comments. 3. Engage with your audience. Respond to negative feedback in a polite and respectful manner, and show that you are open to feedback and willing to improve. 4. Don't take it personally. Remember, not everyone's going to like your podcast, and that's perfectly fine. Focus on creating content that resonates with your audience. 5. Use negative feedback as a learning opportunity. Use it as a way to improve and grow as a podcaster. Seek out constructive criticism from trusted sources. 6, and it bears repeating, ignore trolls and haters. Don't waste your time and energy on people who are intentionally trying to hurt or offend you. Ignore them and move on. And remember, if somebody leaves a scathing comment or tells you that they're not going to be listening, one of two things is going to happen. They're not going to listen, and you've lost them as a listener. So their feedback or what they want you to change about your show doesn't mean anything because they're never going to hear it because they're gone. Or they are going to keep listening because there's this thing out there called hate fandom. So they just might keep listening to see what you do, and they might send you some feedback or comments from time to time, but filter it out. 7, keep creating. Don't let negative feedback discourage you from continuing to create or share your podcast. Keep producing content that you are passionate about, and trust that your audience will appreciate it. Staying motivated and consistent with your podcasting schedule. There are several ways that a podcaster can stay motivated to create their podcast. Some of these include setting specific and achievable goals, planning and organizing the podcast in advance, involving others in the process, and taking breaks when needed. Additionally, a podcaster can stay motivated by regularly reviewing and celebrating their achievements, seeking feedback and support from others, and by finding ways to stay engaged and excited about their podcast topic. It's also important to remember that motivation can come from within, and it kind of should. And also that a strong passion and a commitment to the podcast can help keep the fire burning, even when challenges arise. To stay consistent with their podcast, a podcaster can follow a regular publishing schedule and stick to it as much as possible. This can help to build a sense of expectation and anticipation among listeners, and can also make it easier for the podcaster to plan and prepare episodes in advance. It is also important to be consistent in the quality and the content of the podcast, as this can help maintain the trust and loyalty of the audience. Another way to stay consistent is to use a dedicated recording and editing setup and to stick to a consistent workflow for producing episodes. This can help to minimize distractions and interruptions and can also ensure that episodes are produced to a high standard. Consistency is the podcaster's best friend. Consistency in the podcast branding and presentation can also help to establish the podcast's identity and credibility and make it easier for listeners to recognize and engage with the show. Finally, it is important to remember that consistency does not mean perfection. It is okay to make mistakes or to experiment with different formats or topics, as long as the podcast remains true to its core values and mission. Consistency is about maintaining a steady and reliable presence, and about continuing to create and share valuable and engaging content, even when challenges arise. Conclusion. Podcasting can come with its own set of challenges, from technical issues to negative feedback and criticism. However, with the right knowledge and tools, these challenges can be overcome and turned into opportunities for growth and improvement. This chapter has provided valuable insights and tips for troubleshooting common podcasting challenges and has shown that with dedication and perseverance, it is possible to create and maintain a successful and engaging podcast. Whether you are a beginner or an experienced pro, these tips and strategies can help you overcome obstacles and ensure that your podcast reaches its full potential. Okay, I hope you enjoyed Chapter 8 of the book, and I've got a couple of takeaways or action steps here at the end of this chapter. So if you already, I've divided this into two separate things. So if you already have a podcast, here are your action steps. Number 1, optimize your setup. Consider upgrading or simply maintain your equipment, whether it's your microphones, your cables, the software you use to create your podcast. Keep it going. If it's working, good. If you need to upgrade it, consider the options that are out there and make sure that you test and adjust your levels before every recording. Number 2, streamline your workflow. Use editing presets or consider checklists for a smoother production and publishing. One of the things I do in Audacity is I have a macro setup that does all of my post-processing on both male voices and female voices. If you'd like more information about my secret sauce for Audacity, send me an email, feedback@chrisnessy.com, and I'm happy to share that with you. And I've even got a little tutorial about how to install that into Audacity and make your voice sound great. And number 3, handle feedback gracefully. Respond professionally to constructive criticism. And of course, once again, ignore the trolls. Don't feed the trolls. And here are 3 action steps if you don't have a podcast, but you're considering starting one. Number 1, start with simple equipment. Get an affordable microphone and record in a quiet space. Now, if an affordable microphone is your phone, start there. Start where you are, and you can always grow. You don't need to go out and spend hundreds or thousands of dollars on podcasting equipment if you're just starting. Number 2, learn the basics. Practice recording, practice editing, and use beginner-friendly tools like Descript or maybe even something like Audacity. If you can edit a Word document, you can use Descript to edit audio. If you're looking for easy entry into an actual digital audio workstation or a DAW, I would recommend you try Audacity. And I can support you on either. If you've got questions, hit me up, feedback@chrisnessy.com. And number 3, plan before you launch. Whether it's episodes or you're ready to start your podcast, create branding, create a promotional strategy, include your podcast theme, and consider your target audience. Those are my 3 takeaways for those who already have and for those who will. And now, let's wrap up the episode. Of course, I'd like to thank you for listening to this episode of the House of EdTech. Please subscribe or follow this podcast wherever you are listening and continue to make House of EdTech a part of your anytime, anywhere professional development. Links and resources for this episode can be found in the show notes. You can go to chrisnessy.com/255. They're also a swipe or a tap away wherever you're listening right now. I also want to remind you that I do want to hear from you. I value feedback. I value your perspective. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have thoughts or questions about starting a podcast, making your podcast better, talking about education technology, right? That's why we are here together. You can email me, feedback@chrisnessy.com. That's CHRISNESI. And better yet, leave a voicemail. You can do that on the website. Every page has a little voicemail button. I can't wait to connect with you. I'd also like to encourage you to share this podcast with another educator who would get value. Spread the word, because that's what I need you to do. If you do nothing else, share this episode with somebody else. I do want to reach as many educators as possible, and then let them decide if they want to keep listening. But if you could help me get it in their ears, thank you in advance. Lastly, I invite you to become an awesome supporter if you're getting value from my content. I put a lot of time, effort, and energy into this, and if that is bringing you value, what is that worth to you? Consider becoming an awesome supporter. I am incredibly grateful for the ongoing support from the following people: Leo Calbush, Brian Carpenter, Aaron Cummings, Jeff Herb, Peggy George, and Matt Miller. If you've gotten value from this podcast and would like to become an awesome supporter, just visit chrisnessy.com/awesome. The next episode of the podcast is going to be episode number 256, and we're going to wrap up the book with chapter 9, some conclusions, recaps, and your next steps. That is going to come your way on December 1st, 2024, and we're going to get into December, which means, once again, the Smackdown is coming. Get me your entry by December 20th, 2024, so you can be in episode number 257. chrisnessy.com is where you do that. If you've got questions, send me that email. Until next time, you know it is. You know what it is. Thank you for learning with me. And remember, using technology, not difficult. Just give it a try. Hey, you're still here. Don't waste time here. Go do the Smackdown. Send me your tip, your trick, your website, whatever you want to submit. What'd you love in 2024? chrisnessy.com/voicemail. Send it to me. Let's go. All right, on to the next podcast.